All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In on the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. Mitch Michals from the Santa Monica Studios. Delighted as always to bring you another episode of the show. Real exciting time of the tennis year. We're in that sweet spot between Roland Garros and Wimbledon. With that, I'm joined now by a special guest, first time on the show. Had to track this person down. A digital content creator and an entrepreneur in the business world, helping brands reach their full marketing potential. And in the tennis space, she's found a lane that bridges entertainment with insight, fashion, with insightful commentary as only she can do it. It's Eliza Wastcoat, known as Eliza West. Welcome on the show. A long time coming. Excited to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan, so I'm excited to spend some time with you today.
Well, great. Now I'm going to blush, so we're going to start like that. No, this is great. And I mentioned the sweet spot in the calendar. Wasn't even planning on talking about this, but we get to grass. It's just a window. Yeah. It's such a short window. I just watched Naomi Osaka, Bianca Andreescu. It's an incredible match. Every time these two play, it's just exciting. Yeah,
I was hoping we might get that matchup a little bit more often now. It's been so long since we saw the last time that they played, and they bring such a high level out of each other. And two, power hitters on the women's tour. I think they represent both great comeback stories as well. So it's fantastic to see them starting over again.
Yeah, I think they're just classically trained, and it really is exciting this time of year, especially when you get to this. There's no season shorter, I think, in all sports. You get grass court tennis, and I know how important grass is to you where you grew up, but yes. It's hard to really explain. It's also hard to translate because most people don't play tennis on grass, so they see it's this new, exciting, exotic thing.
Yeah, tennis on grass is definitely very special to me. I grew up in London, very close to Wimbledon, and had the pleasure of being a ball girl at Wimbledon as well. So just sort of experiencing the grass both as a player when I got the chance to in the summers, and also standing on Wimbledon's grass and getting a taste of that has just been so special. So
these are video episodes. There's not a lot of video, extras, but the only one we have, and you spoiled it because it all started at the Wimbledon, at being a ball girl. And I mean, this is Roger Federer. I think our viewers have heard him, who he is. But your experience, so was this where it started? Were you a tennis fan before this? How did this come to be? I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, so I was a tennis fan growing up. My dad was a big tennis fan, and I remember watching Wimbledon on, the old school TVs when I was young, particularly those Roger Nadal matches early on. And I was very lucky. My school was a feeder school for kids to apply for ball girling at Wimbledon. And I applied through my school and went through what's like a 6-month selection process. It's much more intense than any of the other ball kid programs that I've managed to find out about. We have both in physical training on the court for 3 hours a week, and then online tests as well. And that spans about 6 months. So it's quite a competitive program. And then I got the chance to come back for 2 years, and then also came back as a supervisor for the ball kid program as well.
It's a legit program. It's something that you have to put time in, and not everyone passes. But what's the secret to, what's the things you need to be good at to really exceed potential and do well as a ball kid?
Yeah, I think there's the technical skills. So being able to roll the ball really straight, being able to keep your arm up straight, follow kind of their protocols of how they want you to feed the ball. You need to know the rules really well.
Okay.
So from the testing perspective, like when are the ball changes coming? They might give you random math quizzes as to when the ball change is coming and trying to figure that out. And then there's also kind of the fitness and attitude portion that, looking for kids that are going to march in line at all points, whether you're inside Wimbledon's grounds or walking to the tube station. Yeah. They're going to look for people who are meticulous with their outfits and making sure they're wearing the uniform correctly and representing Wimbledon as a brand well. So it's quite strict.
Yeah, I saw at Indian Wells the ball kids, like the warming room where they're ready, and it was very fascinating just how that process works. The last thing on this I had was, did you have any interactions, good or bad, or just unique with players that stand out?
Yeah, I mean, Roger was actually the only one who would pretty much come down every year to thank the ball kids.
Because he was a ball boy.
Yeah, so that always meant a lot to the ball kids. And if a player ever listens to this, I think anything you can do to just like show up and say thanks to the ball kids, it's always a really amazing experience. And something we always appreciate. So I will never forget him, spending the time just to pop in and say hello. And of course, being able to be a ball girl for him was very special too.
So your journey with tennis, and I want to get back to that because you grew up in London, you were a tennis fan, but in your backstory, you didn't always stick with tennis. You were branching out. You grew up in London. You played lacrosse, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was it about lacrosse that kind of made that the one that stuck?
Yeah, I was definitely a team sports player growing up. Tennis is sort of played once a week, and every time there was matches or sort of tournaments, I just didn't really enjoy the one-on-one aspect. It was probably at a time in my life where my competitive streak wasn't quite so under control, and I didn't have the self-discipline for it. But it was also the social aspect of the school I went to. Lacrosse was kind of everything that my friends was playing, netball as well, which is an English version of basketball. And so that was kind of where my social life was. And for a while, I thought I might be able to use lacrosse to help me get into college in the States. It didn't work out that way. I did try to walk on to my college team, but ended up playing club sports, and that really worked out for me as well.
And that was at Lehigh?
Yes.
So you come over to the States. It's a really good school. Most of the people that are familiar understand just how good that school is. But what made you want to come over to America for education? And then the bigger question is that you're still here. Was that always in the cards to stay in America?
Yeah, so my dad's American, my mother's German. So growing up, I guess I never really was sure where to say I was from. Obviously, I have the English accent, but I feel like I'm a bit of a fake Brit sometimes. But I wanted to study business. Lehigh has a great undergraduate business program and entrepreneurship program that really kept my interest throughout my studies. And it was a great kind of mid-sized undergraduate school, to be honest. So it kind of fit the bill of wanting a quintessential American experience and being able to have that. But I did always have my eye on California. I just thought, sunny California coming from rainy old London would be a great place to be. And managed to get my way out here after I graduated working for a creative agency.
Well, I hope you're not still relying on sun in this month that we've had here. So it hasn't been good. So the creative agency started it, but knowing how tennis kind of intertwined back in, was it during that COVID period where you really fell back in love with the game?
Absolutely, yes. I was really lucky. A good friend of mine, my dad has a place in Connecticut, and so I was staying there during COVID. A good friend of mine's dad coaches tennis. His name's Michael. And he gave me the gift of feeling like an athlete again. I asked him if he might be able to help me with my backhand, and he sort of was like, well, yes, but only if you take it seriously. And I didn't really know what that meant until I turned up and he had the cones out, and he was making me practice 2-3 hours a day. And so I fell back in love with the training and played 5 days a week, and it's been uphill ever since then.
Don't you find that tennis has a unique quality? I guess golf is the only other one of the historic sports where everybody can play it. So it's really hard, especially getting back into it. You can play yourself into shape. You can find ways to get better. And it's not, you can really kind of compare yourself to yourself. It's not this game that's just that's really hard to play. Everyone can kind of participate and have fun and get out of it what they put into it.
Absolutely. I think that's what's rewarding about tennis is like you can just focus on being the best player that you can be. It doesn't have to be a comparison to anybody else. And because it's such a lifelong sport, I watched my grandpa playing until his late 80s. And, you know, different levels at each age, different ways that you play the game, the strategies that you face, the fact that I, as a 26-year-old, can lose to 60-something-year-olds is humbling. And the social aspect and community of tennis, you know, moving to LA, not knowing anybody here, it's been my mechanism for finding friends and community as well.
Well, it's really special to hear how this game is global and how it can grow. So I guess following up into that, when did you decide or dip your toe into the social media space and the tennis space as a professional?
Yeah, so my kind of agency background was really in social media strategy. So I sort of had this training and was always working with influencers and kind of had this itch of, you know, this is something I could do and I would love to do that. But I guess, you know, we kind of maybe all have these moments where you treat your Instagram channel like it's some art project and you're afraid of posting anything that, you know, might not be well received. And I'm not sure quite what it was, but a flip switch for me last year during the Australian Open where I just sort of thought, I don't care anymore and I'm just going to share things that I love and hope that people engage with me. So it started with talking about upcoming matches, what people should watch, and then from there blossomed into this kind of fashion realm, which I definitely didn't expect to be kind of the lane that I ended up taking, but it's been so much fun to build community and find like-minded people online. Do
you think fear kind of does keep people from doing it and putting themselves out there? Because I do think there's a lot of creative people that just don't tap into what they can do because they're afraid to, like you did, put yourself out there, know that there's not going to be 100% approval rating for everything, but just to keep at it and to get incrementally better like you would on the tennis court.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process, it's a journey. I think it's accepting that your first post isn't going to be your best one and that's okay. And also putting perfection aside. you know, you're never going to play a perfect tennis match. It's hard to always have a perfect social media post. There's always going to be ways to improve, and it's learning to enjoy that part of the journey and the creative aspect of it. So, I think, you know, sometimes people are afraid. It's also a lot of work and time and commitment. But I think once you've kind of spent some time in that world and engaging with other people, you sort of come to realize it's a game like anything else that you can play.
You know, and seeing some of your stuff, the what happened this week in tennis, some of the funnier stuff, and like rec league players can relate to certain moments. Yeah. I was struck by the voice. You've done a great job balancing out and finding that middle ground of I can be insightful, but I'm not going to be dry with it. I'm going to have fun. And I understand that, like players, there's fans with different levels of interest, of knowledge. How did you find that balance in your voice when you started posting a lot?
Yeah, I guess I really wanted tennis to feel welcoming. I know that it can be a sport that feels kind of gated at times, both from a playing perspective and a fan perspective. And so I wanted people to be able to find my page and think, oh, like tennis is maybe a sport I haven't followed, but I like sports, and like this girl can help kind of help me learn to get into the game of tennis, whether that's through playing the outfits or knowing what's going on tour. And also, you know, from just like who I am as a human being, I like to make jokes. I like to have banter. It's sort of probably my English personality. I've always listened to talk sport radio growing up. So the sort of banter and back and forth is a part of, you know, just who I am. So including that in my content has always been fun. Right.
Nobody likes to know it all. So it's like nice to kind of welcome people into it. But I mean, on the serious side, do you struggle with, or have you adjusted to when you do have to cover more serious topics?
Yeah, I mean, there are some things that I feel passionately about that I would like to use my voice to talk about and illuminate issues. I think that's something I've always kind of been taught, whether, you know, through college or just being an advocate for other people. And some scenarios or some stories are difficult to tell, but I don't think that means it's not worth trying to touch on them. And I think having open discussion and not being afraid of what other people's opinions might be is important online.
And still doing like the creative side of things and working with brands and being a strategist, what's something you think brands in general might be lacking, or I don't want to say failing, but could improve?
Yeah, I think the kind of connection and storytelling aspect between the players and their community and their fans. I think tennis was lucky to have such big stars over the last 20 years, and perhaps with these kind of upcoming players and the changing of the guard per se, the brands maybe have been waiting in the wings a little bit, trying to see like who are they going to hedge their bets on, or is tennis going to have this sort of like down period before we find our new stars. And I think we found the new stars, so I'd love to see more intentional community building with particular players and their sets of fans and connecting their personality, because I think it's another reason why fans might get into tennis is not necessarily knowing the sport or the game, but liking who that person is from their social media channels, how they interact with people, and getting to know them as a person. And that can make watching them so much more fun. So in general, telling their story more and getting to know who they are, I think is an opportunity.
Now, that's a great point, and it makes me think about the fashion side of things. When players change brands, sometimes it's not their call. Sometimes they get dropped, and it's, you know, you have to perform and you have to outwork the field. And on that same note, there is a lot of talk about players as brands and increasing that, and that's great, and I'm all for it, but I will say you still have to perform. Absolutely. So it's tough to, and I, you know, never been a pro athlete. It's a tough world to live in. It's got great benefits, but you still have to focus on your bread and butter, what got you to the dance. If you're not performing, then other people will pass you on and off the court.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a challenge for the players to be able to kind of strike a balance that feels manageable for them. I mean, I think like the personality difference between Swiatek and Sabalenka is a great example of that, where Swiatek, you know, likes a tighter bubble, wants to be much more kind of tight-knit with her team, doesn't seem to be quite as extroverted, whereas you see Sabalenka on social media, she's making fun of her coaches, she's making silly videos, she's engaging with her fans, and she's got an extroverted personality, and perhaps for her that helps her in her own way to kind of feel relaxed and feel connected. So I think it's all about being authentic to kind of who you are as a player, and people connect with you for different reasons. And I think it's remembering, you know, that there's all sorts of different spectrums of people and what they like and don't like. And so there's room to be yourself and advocate for the things that you care about. and using your platform and your voice to just be as authentic as you can be.
Right. Andrea Pekovic told me on this show, it's like we love personality, but you can't force personality on a single player. So it's great advice there. More with Eliza Wastcoat here on Tennis Channel Inside In, known as Eliza West on social media, digital creator, tennis influencer, a jack of all trades in a lot of different ways. The fashion side of thing is what a lot of people have come to know you as, and you're like this improbable voice on tennis fashion. I will start with this, though, because I know Wilson holds a lot in your heart. I know working with them and their talented, array of athletes, but also some of the gear that they had. I'll say on this show, my mom got something at Indian Wells, got like a black zip up, and it's like her favorite thing now.
Great.
So,
I love that.
but no, it's a known brand that has started to get into the fashion side, and it's been a home run so far.
Yeah, it's been really awesome to see that transformation. When I started making content, I actually purchased my own stuff from Wilson thinking like, this is awesome. I used to be an exclusively Nike girl. That's what I wanted to wear growing up. And then I started branching out, trying new brands. And I was very impressed by their strategy, approach, kind of the look that they were going for. Felt like it was really leaning into kind of the history of tennis and that they're trying to be innovative and kind of do something different and see the opportunity of kind of Nike and Adidas on its downfall. And and then I've had the pleasure to work with them this year and kind of get a sneak peek into some of their collections. And I've just been impressed by the innovation, the kind of foresight that they have into, what's going to look good on the court, how they're partnering with different players. And I really hope to see them continue to kind of increase that player roster.
It's Marta Kostuk, Nico Jari's on there, Peyton Stearns. Love Peyton Stearns, one of my favorites. Yourself, and I know my other friend on the show here, Blair Henley, also reps Wilson too.
Absolutely.
So the roster's growing. Yeah. I just think it's good to have variety. I don't want to begrudge any brand. It's nice to have the heavy hitters, the Nikes and the Adidases, and now with New Balances in the mix too. But you're seeing brands that maybe we don't know. You're even seeing Armani get into the game. I think it's nice to have this variety, and on a lower level wise, it's like there's different price ranges for people who either have the resources or don't, and also depending on what investment they want to make in their own tennis. So I think it's pretty cool to have that variety.
Variety is important, and everybody's going to have their own style, and not everybody agrees with what I pick in terms of what looks good or what doesn't look good. And there are so many tennis players, not just at the top, but at the recreational level, who are looking for gear, who do care about what they wear. And I think tennis is unique in one of those ways, especially in America. And I hate to say this, but people in America
here it goes. No, I'm kidding.
don't care what they wear to the gym. You don't really see that many people put effort into the gym. In Europe, you'll see matching sets and different sort of outfits, but I think tennis is one of the few sports in the States where people do pay attention to their looks, maybe tennis and golf. And so to get kind of the opportunity to inspire people to kind of expand their tennis wardrobe has been a lot of fun as well.
I'll push back at one thing. You said your age earlier on this show. I'm a little older than you. I think with youth, they don't put as much effort in to matching sets. I'll say that, but certain generations, I'll put mine in there. Maybe we put more effort in. But you're right, though. If Adrian Manarino can get a sponsorship, there's dollars out there for everyone. But I need you to weigh in, obviously, on the short debate, the inseam debate, where we are. There's been a lot, and I asked the question, how short do these young guys plan on getting with their shorts? But how do you see the inseam debate of men's shorts?
Yeah, I like a 6 to 7 inch seam. I think that's a healthy length without hoisting them up a little bit too much. I did ask Holger Rune at Indian Wells, and he was like, I want them shorter. And I was like,
oh, wait, we know.
Okay. I know Tommy Paul wants them shorter as well. Obviously, there are other names in the mix. For me, sometimes it's encroaching on like Speedos, and that's a little bit too short for me. So yeah, I think 6 inches is good. But if you're a bit taller, I can understand why you might go for a longer short.
Yeah, I would think also leg structure too, and there's a lot of variables. But yeah, I thought 7, 5.5 was like my cutoff. I'm like, okay, this is about as short as we would get, but no, we're flying right past that. How was that Indian Wells experience, by the way? You got to go to Taste of Tennis as like a host MC, but also interviewed a lot of great players. Tsitsipas Badosa, Qinwen Zhang, I saw Maddox Sands, to name a few. What was that experience like being on the other side there?
Yeah, it was such a pleasure, and getting the chance to speak to the players as human beings. Again, I think people can forget these are normal human beings with personalities and different preferences and desires in life, and so just getting to know them and ask them questions that perhaps are non-tennis related. I was asking them about favorite foods and dessert and what they would like, a friend of the tour to make for them at a dinner party and kind of things like that, and just seeing who they are underneath the game of tennis. And again, kind of connecting that back to what I said earlier of sort of realizing personalities might impact who you like to watch as well.
Do you think you're more comfortable now, like the camera side of things, the interviewing side of things? We saw you on Second Serve with Nick Monroe, Coco Vandeweghe, and Jeff Chisper. Do you think you're getting more comfortable being on that side of the camera?
Yeah, I'd like to hope so. I've definitely been enjoying it a lot, and I think that's been the most important thing for me. But it's obviously a profession and a journey in itself, so hopefully I'll get a little bit more practice and can continue to get those opportunities.
For sure. And I did want to circle back to fashion for one thing. On the female side, do you have a preference look? I know dresses are like Wilson's putting out some stuff, but do you have a preference on a certain look that you think is maybe the best?
It's tricky because it definitely varies based on, your height, kind of your structure. For me, I've always preferred wearing dresses, but I really look for kind of the full outfit. So like, does the jacket intentionally go with that dress? Do you kind of have the matching accessories with the hat and the wristband? So I'm sort of looking at coordination for the whole outfit. Some players are really good at even matching like the hairbands and the nails and like all of it. So I think it's not just one look, but it's kind of how you put it together.
And weather probably, like what other conditions are. If it's one of those hot, humid days, certain things aren't going to go well. But absolutely. I did want to kind of wind this convo down discussing like tennis and where we are with certain things. One of the big ones is also technology. Yeah. There's a lot of debate, and I think trying stuff's great, even if you're not going to hit a home run every time. Yeah. What did you think of the umpire camera situation at Roland Garros? It gave us some good memes at the very least.
It did give us some fantastic memes. It does seem like a little bit of a strange use of technology. I was surprised to see it, especially kind of given French Open's kind of quite traditional approach to how they go about officiating anyway. I'm not sure it's something I need to see again, because from a value perspective, it didn't really show me the mark, which is what I think it was intending to. And from a player's perspective, I certainly wouldn't have been very happy with those screenshots.
Yeah, it wasn't maybe the best Roland Garros French Open in terms of review of everything put on. The cameras were interesting. I think technology in general, whether you talk about Hawkeye or certain things, there's never going to be perfection. I think we just want to see progress in certain ways. So I don't know. Is there one thing that you want to see or something that stands out like tennis should probably be trying this technology-wise?
I think video review.
Yeah.
I know Coco brought it up at the French Open, and it's been brought up several times before, but there are instances where it just feels like it's a lot of pressure just to rely on the human eye of an umpire in a split-second decision or when it's going so quickly. So I think getting the chance to review and also maybe it's not a technology thing, but it feels like the supervisor is always redundant, and it's the umpire who's always calling the shots. And so it's kind of like, what's the point of calling out the supervisor if there's never any changes to a ruling? So I think kind of maybe rethinking and adding more clarity, especially for fans who are maybe new to tennis, like what that relationship is. And maybe it's the supervisor who gets the video review who can come and overturn a call or something like that. I
wouldn't even call it pushback. My only thing is that we have to figure out a way to keep the game moving. Absolutely. So, and baseball here in America, like they've gotten a lot better at it, but there's still, as long as the flow of the game, because I think the flow of a match is very important. So you can't have longer delays and tactical things, but I agree with you there. I also think, I know we're getting to this maybe super tour situation at some point. Yep. But for the 250 events, Liza, I think they should just try different things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think it's gotten stagnant in a little ways. And obviously I love tennis, but trying new things shouldn't be discouraged.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the 250s are a great place for that to start. And I think the players are also welcoming of trying new things and new technology, maybe more than the tour officials who are sitting in the boardroom debating whether they want to do it or not. I think that's where there's opportunity for people like the Players Council or the PTPA to have a bigger voice and be able to kind of advocate for what the players want to see trialed more than what kind of the officials who are sitting in the back room want to see.
Matches that go till 4 a.m. probably not the best. Also, we're getting to Wimbledon, your stomping grounds, and it's always funny when I'll have a friend out of the woodwork be like, they have a curfew? It's like, yeah, they do. The neighborhood. I'm sure you're used to it, but it's always funny. And then the one year it was Djokovic Nadal getting stopped by a curfew.
Yes.
Is there certain, I guess, storylines or strategies or things you're monitoring with the game right now? We're in this changing of the guard situation, especially on the men's side. It's been really fascinating to see Sinner and Alcaraz step up and others kind of waiting in the wings with Djokovic still around. But what on, I guess, the men's front have you been paying attention to?
Yeah, I think we're all sort of waiting patiently to know what's going to happen with the Saudis' involvement and kind of the PFA rankings and what that means for tennis. Are there going to be Masters tournaments held in Saudi Arabia? If so, when? What does that structure look like? But for me, I think it's not exclusive to the men's tour, but really taking a look at the calendar year and how many tournaments they're playing, because it's not just from the players' perspective, it's also from the fans' perspective that sometimes less is more. And that it certainly feels like there are moments of the season that are heavily watered down and that feel too intense, too back-to-back. Maybe the 2-week Masters formats, I think, during Madrid and Rome just really felt like a long series.
It's a lot.
Events.
You can call it what it is in that regard. And I think it's great to have these opportunities. But the flip side of that is the early rounds of these Masters aren't what they used to be. Absolutely. There was something special about Monte Carlo on Sunday and Monday. And one of the analysts told me the qualifying for Monte Carlo was like a good 250 tournament.
Yeah, and I think there's so much buzz for the fans around that as well. I mean, maybe you get an opportunity to watch one good match a day when there's 5 good matches in a week-long format. But I think both from the players and fan perspective, a little bit of a shorter calendar year would be good, and just leave a little bit more build-up time in between the tournaments. That's what makes them special.
I'd say assumptions are usually a bad thing in tennis. Even the big three, they had to, deal with adversity. So even though Alcaraz won, don't assume he's just going to ride all the way through. He'll have adversity. He'll probably handle it well. Yeah. Maybe the only assumption would be Egon Clay, though. That's like it.
That's a good bet for sure.
Yeah, on the women's side, it's fascinating, though, because I've noticed, too, and you followed tennis, how Iga is one of the undersized players. It's size and strength in all sports, but women's tennis, it's bigger, faster, stronger, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's room for variety, and that's what makes women's tennis pretty special. The fact that there isn't kind of one build fits all.
Right.
And I think what she's doing for the sport, kind of who she is as a person, her approach to tennis, her professionalism, having interacted with her in a press room, she's a really kind human being as well. And I'm excited to kind of see her get the kudos she deserves. I feel early on when she took over that number 1 spot from Ash Barty, a lot of people kind of felt like it was handed to her, and she's certainly proved that wrong and earned every single one of these amazing titles already at 23 years old. So
following somebody so well liked can't be easy because everybody likes Ash Barty, so that was part of it. Also going to do commentary at Wimbledon, so that'll be fun to see Ash Barty. I mean, she's been good at everything, so she'll probably be good at that too. Yeah. Before I let you out of here, a couple more things here I wanted to get to with Eliza Wastcoat here on Tennis Channel Inside In. Also pretty exciting that tennis has a video game finally. Yes. It's been, what, like 15 years at least?
It's been a while since the new release of Topspin from 2K Games. And I got a chance to work with them earlier this year, play a bit of their game at Indian Wells. I will admit, I'm not a video game player, so I was pretty tragic. And I think the game developers were looking at me like, who did we invite?
Right, yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And I think, again, like trying to find ways to break down the barriers for how we invite people into tennis. And if that's through someone playing a video game and now they start to watch tennis, I think that's a great avenue to explore.
Yeah, I'm just hoping we could finally get like a good documentary series or something. I know Breakpoint didn't work out, but it's about access and providing certain things. I think we're going to get, we have a few films coming out. The Federer, Serena Williams has a series. I didn't see the Stan Smith doc yet, but that's another one on my list. So tennis in the mainframe having this like moment and having an ability to capitalize on it will be good. Last thing for you, Eliza, though, I wanted to ask if you have a favorite or most popular, most special video or post that you had. Whether it's a rec league, rec league players can relate to my favorite because it's just funny. Yeah. The fashion stuff. There's one post that you think stands out.
Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought of that before. Yeah, I guess it is sharing my tennis journey and what people might be able to relate to as a recreational level tennis player. I had so many fun comments from people on that one video where I completely messed up my backhand volley, and I guess makes you feel, human and like other people are going through the same experiences as you. And of course, what you see on the TV isn't going to be what you can recreate at home, and that doesn't mean you're not a good player and can still have fun with the sport.
Yeah, if we're comparing ourselves out there to Alcaraz, Sinner, Iga, it's probably not going to go in the direction we want. But no, you're doing tremendous work. It's been fun to kind of watch your growth and see where you've taken your platform and also how many people are starting to kind of follow in your footsteps. So, Eliza Wastcoat, really appreciate you coming into the studio and doing this show. It was on my list, so I'm glad we were able to make this work.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun chatting with you.